Hey everyone. Good morning, good afternoon.
Hi, good morning.
Morning.
We'll just give it another minute or two. Seems like we're missing a few people.
Hey Joey, I have a question. The on our wiki.magmacore.org, you have mentioned like technical requirement for helium 5G. Should we also attach your Google Docs document there for reference?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, I also did some simple slides to walk through this morning. I can share a link to those also.
Yeah, sounds good.
Well, in the interest of time, we can go ahead and get started. Joey, if you want to get started with your presentation.
Yep, I will share. What's behind this? That could be exciting. Oh, yeah, let's not. That was recorded. Cool. That's the risk of sharing the whole screen, isn't it?
Been there.
All right. Let's learn from that lesson and turn off notifications. Proposal for this morning on the helium 5G certification versus powered by Magma. So for the background for the group, the Magma Core Foundation and the Decentralized Wireless Alliance are both creating certification programs related to Magma. The MCF will be certifying powered by Magma capability and branding, and DY will be certifying helium 5G and the proposal that we're discussing this morning is just looking at the MCF scope for both of these testing programs, because MCF will be playing a role in both. But what we're proposing is that it's not the same scope for both programs. So it's been proposed that ES1 AP tester is used for these certification programs. ES1 AP tester has 113 test cases and was mostly created for Magma CI to run as code gets added and check for regressions and confirm core features are working. And so our proposal is to split the MCF testing into two classes. One class is a DY pre-check. So it's going to test a subset of the ES1 AP test cases, just looking to confirm that the actual hardware appliance is running the AGW code, and there's no like local IP breakout workarounds going on. Then separately for the full powered by Magma certification, we are proposing a full run of S1 AP test. This should really say S1 AP tester. To confirm complete compliance for any vendor that wants to apply the label of powered by Magma. We also propose that in either case, Lordy, sorry, I got typos all over. The yes guy reserves the right to run some or all of the test cases manually with real equipment, as long as the test pass criteria is the same, and the reasoning for that is twofold. One is it helps with ramp up time, while getting a test set up completed to run ES1 AP tester with traffic generation, with hardware in the loop. ESIs can start running some of the tests manually, but also it introduces real equipment, so real eNodes, real UEs, which helps confirm interoperability with like real hardware. Discussion on the proposal. The DY pre-check step is meant as a precursor to the full DY test plan, and the full DY test plan is going to include an orchestrator, a FEG, the AGW plus roaming partner interfaces. So it has a larger scope, and so the DY pre-check subset of tests was just created to confirm that the appliance is actually running AGW code without going through the full test suite. Alternatively, if you want to apply the powered by Magma label, you have to successfully complete the full one AP test suite. And then lastly, I have a link to the test case list that was shared on Friday-ish, or perhaps this morning. I'm happy to show the proposed subset of tests relative to the whole test, but prior to going into that list, any questions or comments?
Hey Joey, so just to understand it, so we are talking about this certified hardware.
Yes.
Okay. So this DY, this is decentralized Wi-Fi?
Wireless Alliance. No, it is the, it is the governing body for the helium network. And they are starting a certification program for hardware appliances that want to support the helium 5G network. And it is a requirement to use Magma. And so part of the certification process is going to come through MCF.
Okay. Okay, now I understand. Thank you.
Yeah. And so I attached just the appendix from the RF guy. This is probably really small. And I edited it to create two columns to show which cases are required for each of the certification tracks. And we can go through these specifically if you want. There's a total of 13 for the DY track and the full 113 for the powered by Magma. I think the approach that I took for creating the shortened list was touching on one test in key functional areas to confirm that the appliance is actually running AGW code, and it isn't just forwarding traffic or playing any tricks. So basic attach tests, repetitive attach tests, the test that checks that the OVS data path is getting installed to confirm that traffic is actually going through all of the AGW code and it's not doing LIPA or some workarounds. And then just kind of the basic functionality of having a SIM validated. Does it actually check the parameters in the S1 config are correct? And then connecting to two different types of vNodes to confirm that nothing's being hard coded and set up like just to get through the test suite. And then checking traffic is flowing and that state and Redis and all of this stateless functionality is in place. And so that's a quick run through of the selected test cases.
I have a couple of questions. So when I think about a certification program, I would assume this is focused on making sure a particular hardware SKU is compatible with Magma and it can work. When I look at this list, it looks more like a set of software tests. What I'd be interested in looking at is, does this particular miner or this endpoint actually have the compute capability? Does it have the storage capability? Can it handle the throughput? And so I would imagine we would want to have throughput tests, we'd want to have load tests, we would want to make sure that that device is able to support the desired use case. The second thing to that is Magma is an open source program, and so it continues to evolve. What that means is that code base isn't always going to be static and it continues to move on. Are you proposing that we would test against a particular SHA that is locked in perpetuity, or that we keep re-snapping onto new releases? What is the strategy beyond here's what it is, sir?
So when you say snapshot, are you talking about a snapshot of the test or snapshot of the image running on the appliance?
The image specifically.
So I mean, similar to any hardware certification process, I think you have to certify with some software info and say, okay, version X was certified, and then it's left to the operator if a software update comes in the future and it hasn't gone through the certification process, it is an operator choice at that time if you want to deploy the software update or ask the vendor to go back through certification. That's how, like,
right, and that's totally reasonable, right? Like if you look at what Android does or what Qualcomm does, there's absolutely a requirement to recertify. What I was trying to tease out is the proposal here needs two parts. One is what the technical tests are, and then one, what the process looks like, right? If the process—
so yeah, so there is an RFI that includes more of that, I believe. I was just trying to address the scope of TSC at this time.
Got it. Yeah. So maybe if we're just focusing on the technical stuff, I would imagine we'd want to be testing for storage capacity, compute capacity, the ability for it to handle a certain number of users or to handle a certain performance target in terms of UDP and TCP throughput. Is that something that should be in scope?
So there's two classes of thought for certification in general, right? So most certifications don't consider performance, just protocol compliance. So if you look at Wi-Fi Alliance, if you look at cable industry certification, it's all testing protocol compliance, but it purposely doesn't check performance because that is more of a product decision versus a certification compliance decision.
Okay, so let me play
Right.
devil's advocate. If somebody wants to put on a miner that can support 1 user and 1 megabit per second, is that something that Magma should certify?
I mean, so you're asking for a prediction of if there is a market for such a product, and that's like a different question.
No, to be clear,
Right.
I'm asking as a technical body.
Taking Ethernet switch as an example, a 4-port gigabit switch with a blocking backplane that can only support 1 gig of throughput is still Ethernet compliance, similar to a Cisco 24-port fully non-blocking switch. So getting into certifying for performance is a really deep goal that includes assumptions about deployment use cases and product marketability.
I think I'm trying to distinguish what the minimum spec is, not what the maximum is, right? So what is our stance as Magma on what is a minimum hardware compute requirement? And that is listed on the Magma Core website, right? I think it's 4-core, 1.2 gigahertz, blah, blah. That should be reflected in the certification is what I would argue. If we're saying that that is too high, maybe that's a different conversation. But my point being Magma's website already lists some sort of minimum hardware requirement. Now, obviously that doesn't work with virtualized stuff, but on the hardware side, it does list that out. I'm asking if that should be reflected in the certification as well.
My view is it should not, but I am not gonna die on the hill, and we have lots of other folks on the call. So if the majority view is yes, it should, we can add like a specification attestation that is checked.
Yeah, I think Ulas has been most close to this in terms of performance targets, throughput, number of concurrent users. I'd like him to weigh in on how we would want to structure a Powered by Magma program in terms of certifying a node to be Magma compliant, and how we would want to maybe list out requirements from a networking perspective.
Yeah, from performance point of view, I think it is really, a deployment is very important on that one. I am really hesitant to basically put a requirement for certification on that basically. But in terms of the software, I think a minimum hardware, this should be the hardware you should be running to cater for this scale will be, a meaningful description. So, I mean, are we gonna provide some categories like different badging colors for different performance numbers? That I don't think is really that necessary. I mean, so far, I mean, we have a minimum hardware suggestion on the deployment page. Anything beyond that, I think, will be unnecessary at this point.
I think that makes sense. I'm okay with a minimum thing. I'm just trying to hedge against a case where somebody puts a really underpowered device and then that causes more issues, or they run out of storage and that causes more issues. Then the brand association of, hey, it's a Magma software issue versus it's a hardware issue then comes into question. But if we know what the minimum bar is from a compute perspective, at least we can hedge against that.
Yeah, I mean, from compute perspective, it is very clear, what we are asking for. It's a 4-core machine, 4 GB memory. The disk space, I guess we don't specify that. But at least from the memory and CPU perspective, we have that requirement.
Well, this is what we have today. It says dual core, and it has memory and disk.
Okay.
So we could add it as a checklist and just say, like, do you comply with the minimum hardware requirements, yes or no?
Yeah, but some of these things like two physical Ethernet interface, I mean, I can imagine a case where, people just have one physical box with one physical NIC, but uses virtualization internally. So, I mean, the question that Azvin is asking basically, hey, when is it, software fault versus when it is actually hardware fault? To me is a bit an awkward question, because I am guessing, whoever is distributing this, like FreedomFi, already, is in control of both the software side as well as the hardware side. And if it's a commercial deployment, they should have already tested it in the particular scenario that they are marketing the product for. I think this guideline is more, for, I guess, newcomer third parties who wants to experiment with it, they have no experience previously, then I guess as a starting point, this can serve as a good guideline, but I don't think this is a guideline for a company like FreedomFi. No, I mean, Joy, you can correct me if I am wrong here.
I believe this is for third-party certification for non-FreedomFi gateways, right? So if somebody else like CertCon wants to deploy their own DY miner / Magma access gateway, I guess what's not clear to me is how that software is supported. But yeah, I think the idea is for non-FreedomFi also to participate in this alliance.
Yeah. So that's absolutely true. What else? So, I mean, it gets, the reason performance is usually left out of certification is to leave room for product differentiation, with the assumption that if you create a horribly underpowered product and you don't describe the intended use case clear enough that you're not going to sell much. It's just not going to work, right?
Yeah, I think, yeah, I mean, whoever is basically destroying the product should have a, you know, a product specification that talks about the performance numbers, not the, you know, Magma itself basically requiring any certification for that. And it doesn't really, as I said, make too much sense for me.
So how does this proposal and discussion move forward? We've heard and discussed Ashwin's topic about performance. How do we? Are there any other discussion areas? And then two, what happens next?
Yeah, so I can jump in here. So there's a couple of things that unfortunately we didn't get the pre-read in time because of logistics issues. So the rest of the TSC needs to weigh in on this. I think Kendall's going to take action to help make sure everybody has their input and they can provide feedback, and we can take it at the next session in terms of taking it forward. You have the option at this point to go back and rework and add some stuff before we do that analysis, or the TSC can do it based on whatever you've already submitted. If they provide feedback, that would be made available by Kendall, and then if it's decided, then we can vote on it next week, I suppose.
Sorry, I was getting a phone call, so I missed the last part of what you said.
No worries. I was just saying, yeah, and I agree that we need to close on this. And I was suggesting that we can either wait for updates from Joey and team, or we can take what's already been submitted and have the TSC run through it to their analysis. We don't have everybody represented here today, so we would want to send that out of sync and then just have people act or provide feedback for Joey and team to respond to.
Yep.
And if we have consensus, then we can just vote in Slack. We don't have to do it at the next meeting, I suppose.
Yep, that sounds good.
Does that make sense, Joey?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah, and I will share the slides that I showed this morning. And what's the right place to share them? Should I send them to you to post in the meeting notes, or post in the Slack channel and tag someone?
Yeah, if you want to post it in the TSC Slack channel and then tag me, then I can make sure it gets included in all the places. I won't miss it this time.
No problem.
Great. Okay, for the next agenda item, we have from Shubham, delete inactive repos from GitHub Magma Core.
Yeah, it just
Before we
small-
go, Kendall, I see
Yeah,
that
Rafael,
today
go
we
ahead.
have 4 voting members of the TSC over 8. How it is from a quorum point of view, and I mean, what are the rules now? Now we are 8 voting members.
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
So we have now 8 voting members of the TSC. Is that correct?
Uh-huh.
And today we have only 4 present. Is that enough?
Yes, we are working on getting the rest present. We assumed that they would see it on the calendar and join from that. I'm going to send them each a calendar hold, so hopefully they'll have it on their calendar for future meetings, and also hopefully make sure that this isn't a time that's not convenient for them. And if it is, then we'll just have to reevaluate that.
Yeah, but what's the rule? I mean, how many is the minimal for a quorum vote?
We would need 5.
Okay.
So we need majority. So we can't do any voting today. So it would be encouraged to at least have, the goal is to have everyone join all the
Yeah, I know.
meetings.
Yeah, of course. I know. Yeah, but, yeah, it's just the way it is. I know. Yeah, but okay. So it's 5 is the minimum number to have a vote. Okay.
Yep.
Go ahead, Shubham. Sorry for the delay.
Yeah. Thank you, Fab. So just a small thing, if I can change. So here we have 2 repos which is like inactive and they are public. Okay, so this one is private, but it's empty and it's there for long. And this one is public and there is no activity from last 6 months and the code is already merged with master. So I think we can delete it. We don't have voting members like right now, so we can take this up on next meeting or we can post this on Slack channel so they can vote there. Yeah, that's a small thing.
Yep, that sounds good. Yeah, if you want to take that to the Slack, that should be good.
Okay, sure. Thank you.
Uh-huh. So we have proposal reviews to go through, but since we don't have everyone, I think that might be good if everyone could review the 12 open proposals before the next meeting, so we could go through and talk about those next week. They're in the agenda. So let me send that around just in case I don't have it. Put it right here. Which leads me to the last thing would be, we're going to try and use the Confluence wiki for all matters going forward. You'll just need to have an LFID to make edits and changes. It should be open for anyone to create pages and documentation as they wish. If you have any issues, please let me know so I can make sure that you have all the credentials, or if there's something wrong, I can raise it with our IT team. I'll be sending around the agenda through this now instead of Google Docs. If you have any questions, just let me know. And that will bring us to the end of our agenda. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, have a good one, everyone.
Thank you. Bye-bye.